All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of the Remarkable Coach podcast. As always, I'm your host, Michael Pacheco, and with me today, I have Steve Ferman. Steve helps CEOs and executives reach their goals and dreams by using the proven methodology called scaling up, which works on four critical components that all businesses must focus on. That's people, strategy, execution, and cash. Steve Ferman, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me.
Thank you for making time to chat with me here. I like to open up the podcast by simply inviting our guest to tell us a little bit more about yourself in your own words and what got you into coaching.
So I've been around a while. I built, bought, and sold 6 different tech companies over the last 40 years. I'm a big believer in coaching. I coach my kids in school, but just in general, I've always had a coach. I was a graduate of the master's program from the strategic coach. That's run by Dan Sullivan. And Dan was my coach like the last 5 or 6 years as well. So I've always been a true believer, and it's kind of hard to see the forest from within the trees. But I merged my companies in 2016, and a year later, my partners fired me. And I didn't realize you could be a 26% owner in a $7 million a year company and get fired, but you can. So good lesson learned. One of my lower points, but I have walked the walk and talked the talk. I've been doing this a long time, and like I said, 6 different companies. And after litigation for a couple of years and a whole lot of money, we settled that one, call it what you like. But I really didn't know if I wanted to stay in the tech world. I really wasn't sure, and I honestly couldn't compete because of my non-compete and my buyout situation. So I had to figure out something to do. And in January of 2020, I created a company called Integrity, which is a virtual CIO. They couldn't stop me from giving helpful information to clients and helping people and give them guidance. I'm not, as long as I don't really work in the managed IT space, everything's copacetic. And I've been a member of EO Entrepreneurs Organization for 8 years now. I'm on the board. And we have a thing called the Accelerator Program, which is entrepreneurs that don't quite hit the $1 million mark yet in revenues. You can come in as an accelerator, and people like myself, fellow EO members, will coach them. And I've graduated 3 people out of 4 years. So I started thinking in the realm of, doing the CIO work is great. I love it. I know it. It's comfortable. It's easy for me because I've been doing it for 40 years since technology started. And I was doing cloud in like 2008, 2009. When Hurricane Sandy hit and Irene hit, I had people already 100% remotely working. So for me, it was about, what do I want to do in my older years? I'm 61. I'm not gonna, ashamed to admit it, but I got to start thinking about what's the future, the next 10 years look like. And I've always been a big planner. So I decided that I was going to look into becoming a certified business coach. I looked at EOS and Action Coach and ICF and a bunch of other different ones. And we use scaling up at EO. And honestly, just, the whole thing around getting the right people in the right seats on the bus, doing the right things, actually having a strategy documented, written down, and disseminated so everybody in the organization knows it, and being able to execute and have good meeting rhythms. And of course, be concerned about your cash, because growth sucks cash. And in a downturn, you need cash to survive a good 6 months. So I decided to go ahead and bite the bullet. And a year later, I got certified as a scaling up coach back in March. And I've been doing it ever since.
Awesome. It's always nice to have coaches that eat their own dog food, so to speak. So sounds like you're a big believer in coaching. You had a coach yourself.
I still do.
Yeah.
I think, and if you look at any phenomenal sports athlete, how many coaches do they have?
Sure.
Or really anyone that I think has been super successful has had coaching in the past or currently has a coach. So
Love it. Why coaching? Why do you have you said you believe in coaching. Is there a specific passion around that, or is it just something?
There is. I'm a big Simon Sinek fan, and my why, the reason why I do what I do, is because I love to help people. I wake up every day, and this honestly started during the pandemic. And I won't lie, what happened to me with my companies, 34 years of running an IT company and building 5 other ones alongside of it, to have somebody, try and take it, not that they were being malicious, it's business, I get that,
Mhm.
But I was very resentful for the longest time. And I started in the beginning of the pandemic actually praying as soon as I get up. And I'm not a super religious person. I believe there's a higher being. But I stand up every day, and as soon as I stand up, I give thanks for my health, my wealth, my wife, my children, my dog Tucker. And I pray for people that are suffering in the world that they get some relief and some help. And I ask the Lord, let me help one person today. And I can't tell you that a day does not go by where I can't go, yeah, well, look, I helped that person, I helped that person. And I'm not keeping tabs, but without even thinking about it, I can look back and reflect and go,
Yeah,
oh wow, yeah, those are some things I did that was good. So it's my why. I love to help people.
that's great. No, I think, yeah, I mean, service and contribution are, maybe they're not at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, but they're certainly at the top. And it's something that I think helps fulfill us on a, call it a spiritual level.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think the more you give, the more you get. And that's not why you should do it. But for instance, I'm a vet, I'm a Marine. So I help in the Robert J. Slattery Marine Corps League and also in Kiwanis. And I don't do any of it for any other reason than it feels good. It just feels good.
Thank you for your service.
Hoorah. My pleasure.
Who are your clients?
My clients, it's funny. I specifically am trying to go after the tech market or the industry, when I first started, because I thought that would make sense because I know it inside and out. And I don't have any tech clients. My clients are mid-market clients, 5 million to 50, 100 million, even 3+ on the executive team. And basically, or, even one-on-one CEOs that are just stuck or can't see the forest from within the trees, or they're wondering, like, why did I start this business? I seem to do everything because they haven't learned how to delegate, or they haven't set up systems and processes yet
Uh-huh.
so that they can make the company run on its own. Those are really the two areas. Short of, ironically, I'm starting that new workshop. I think I mentioned you called the Marathon. Well, I'm inviting no more than 8 to 10 CEOs of companies, and it's a peer-to-peer group that's going to help each other and be held each other accountable. And I'll facilitate those meetings,
Mhm.
and we'll twice a month.
I like it. Where do you get your clients? How do you market yourself?
I call them COIs, centers of influences, but honestly, it's been basically 100% referrals. I do a little bit of outreach. I do a lot of reaching out on LinkedIn, just trying to give helpful, good information to help people,
Mhm.
in hopes that they'll remember me when they have an issue like that, or something will trigger a thought like, oh, yeah, I got to call Steve. But yeah, it's mostly referrals
Yeah,
is mostly where I get it from. And I'm in a number of networking groups as well.
that's great. How do you, for other coaches out there that may be listening to this, how do you build a referral network that is so strong that is that's your only marketing channel? That's what you rely on for all of your business.
So being present, being mindful, and you gotta really find the right fishing hole to fish in. And it's one of the things we try and teach CEOs. If you want to find good employees or A-player employees, find yourself the right fishing hole for those employees you're looking for. Um, so for me, it's just giving,
Mhm.
helping people out, thinking of them first, making referrals and introductions, get you top of mind, obviously.
Mhm.
But again, I think it's just my general attitude. It's nice to be nice. And
Mhm.
so the more that I'm nice, the more the world seems to, maybe it's the secret. You ever hear that thing called the secret?
I'm familiar.
I think the secret to the secret is that don't make it about you. It's not
Yeah.
about you, but put yourself in enough good possible potential situations to where goodness can come to you,
Mhm.
and then it becomes a world of abundance instead of a world of scarcity.
Mhm. There's a cognitive science uh, thing. I can't think of the word called the law of reciprocity, and I
Mhm.
think that may have part to do with it. So not only again with service and contribution being so important um, for the human spirit, There's also the law of reciprocity. As you're out there doing good and helping people for no other reason than it just serves you. It serves you to serve others. Because it feels good. That's gonna, come back. Call it karma, call it whatever you want. But I think that's it's a great way to live a meaningful life.
Yeah, I'm a true believer of that. And I didn't finish answering your question. So my clients also are in industries like PR, advertising. Actually, one runs a fairly large networking group.
Mm-hmm.
One wrote some software to help people sell products and services or become better salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
So their clients are all over the place, in that regard. So it's really more just people like that have realized they're stuck. We give a free 1 hour consultation, and I got a free 32 question assessment that I let people take that really gives a good idea of where you are or where you think you are in the 4 pillars of people, strategy, execution, and cash.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have multiple executives, I put them together and I heat map it and I color code it, with a score of 0 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And 5 being high, green, and 0 being red, meaning like they don't think that they're good in that one area, whatever that is. And from a visual standpoint, it gives you a real good picture of how aligned you are with your executive team.
Mm-hmm.
Start, which is a lot of times, especially in larger organizations, the real crux of it is lack of trust. There's a lack of accountability. There's just all these dysfunctions that go on in the organization that stops their production.
Let's talk more about those pillars. You got people, strategy, execution, and cash.
Correct.
Let's pick one. Let's dive into it. Tell us a little bit more about
people's that's a lot of people's cost is people, excuse the pun, but a lot of the expense that you have in your organization, is people. I'll give you an example. I had one person I was speaking to who didn't understand the what it costs them to get a project done. I'm like, well, then how are you pricing it? Well, I know basically what it costs. I'm like, okay, but you don't know how many hours that person that you're paying, how many dollars per hour to do. And it takes so many hours to do it. You need to understand for your own sanity and profitability, what is your actual true cost? And that includes a sliver for your G&A, your overhead, your lights, paying rent, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny how many people, especially CEOs, don't really have a good handle on where they are when it comes their margins. So, what do? Either you get good at it or you delegate people, getting the right people that are good at it, that get it, that you trust to help you, achieve that. So it's also, it's expensive to hire people, and it's even more expensive to replace people. Mm-hmm. So getting the right person in the right seat, doing the right thing is super important. Mm-hmm. And that goes from DISC or Colby or some other modus operandi type testing to understanding how they function, all the way down to actually writing what we call a job scorecard. It's actually a job description. Then you have who will fill that role, what that role means to the company, and where the accountability is to the bottom line of that role. Mm-hmm. So that person, when you're interviewing them, you're asking all the right questions. Here's a true story, just a little quickie. My youngest daughter worked at GQ magazine as the social media designer. Right out of college, 3 years, loved it, did really, really well, excelled well, lots of raises, all good. But she really wasn't feeling that engaged. And she wasn't really, the culture had changed a bit because of pandemic, obviously, it's part of it. They're all working remotely. Uh-huh. And she really wanted to work at this company called A24 Films because she really liked what they were doing and it excited her. Uh-huh. So she took a lateral move. Uh-huh. No extra cash because it was work that was more engaging. So, in regards to people, understanding what drives people, mm-hmm. understanding what really makes them happy. It's not always about money. Sometimes it's about recognition. Sometimes it's about being concerned for their well-being or being empathetic, about their family issues, whatever.
Sure.
So that's people. There's a lot more people. I think we could talk for days just on people. But
So you mentioned DISC and Colby. Are there specific tests that you prefer over other tests
I know Colby really well, so I recommend Colby. But Disc is also, it's just that there's another one out there. I think it's Emagram or something like that that also has 12 points.
Enneagram?
Yeah, Enneagram. So it has like 12 points or 9 points of, you know, rating. Colby has four, Disc has 4.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any one of them is right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just what I've used in the past was Colby.
Maybe 6 one way, half a dozen the other.
Yeah. So like I'm a 6376. It's funny how you learn your number and never forget it. Because I even tried taking the test and not answering properly on purpose, and I still got the same number, which is like, okay, you win. But first one is fact finder. So I'm a 6. I do like to get some facts, but I'm a high quick start. I'm an 7 quick start, so I can get by without as many facts as well.
Mm-hmm.
A 3 follow through doesn't mean I don't follow up. It means I'm like the visionary. I'm the guy who's going to go out and create all the messes and pump all these great ideas. And I need who's people I could pass stuff on to. And
Yeah.
I that from Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan from the book Who, Not How.
Uh-huh.
But I get who's to do those things that I don't like, I procrastinate, I suck at, I'm slow at, whatever. And that's kind of, how it all flows. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So, yeah, you can literally talk on people, I think, for days.
Well,
Somebody
let's chat about the strategy pillar a little bit.
So strategy is all about, again, we talked about the fishing hole, finding the right fishing hole for your customers. Defining who are your right customers.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get your mission, your vision, and your core values down. And I don't mean things like, a list of 100 or 10. It should be like 5 or less, maybe even 4 or 3. But what's the real essence? And this stuff takes time. I say it's not a sprint, it's a marathon for a reason. It takes time to really dig in and get the true core mission, vision, value statement down. We also help you build a brand promise all the way to your X factor, what makes you unique.
Mm-hmm.
We have a thing called SWT, or strengths, weaknesses, and trends, instead of opportunities and threats. And basically, if you can figure out what trends coming down the pike 3 months, 6 months from now, and start doing it now, you get ahead of all your competition. They'll never catch you. Little things like that. We got a bunch of cool tools that we use to help, get the thought process rolling. But strategy is really important. If you fail to plan, you can plan to fail.
I love that. It almost sounds to me like it could be like brand strategy specifically.
Oh yeah.
Is that would you categorize that?
Yeah, that's one aspect of it for sure.
Okay.
But everything, if you really break it down and dig into or dive into it, you could break down a sales strategy. It could be a production strategy. Strategy is just, the planning and being consciously aware of what you intently are looking to do and how to be strategized to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Strategy just helps you achieve the goal you're trying to accomplish.
I like it. How about execution?
Execution is a good one. So obviously you can have the best strategy and the best people. If you can't execute it, who cares? I was telling the story about that person that didn't understand their margins and they wonder why, they don't have more clients. Well, you need to be able to execute. So when I asked that person, how are you doing on leads? Oh, I get leads. Great. And how are you doing on following up on these leads? Well, that's the other issue. But the reality is, if you can't execute on those leads, it doesn't matter that you're getting leads. It's kind of irrelevant. Yeah. Also, execution is also in and around good communication and good meeting rhythms. Having daily huddles within your team for 5 minutes or 15 minutes rather than every day, so you can just talk about what's going on, what you're working on that day, what you finished up yesterday, whatever. Weekly huddles, which are a little bit longer, upwards of 90 minutes, where you kind of dive deeper into the projects and things that are going on. And then there should be all hands on deck monthly meetings. So you can disseminate from the executive team down, what you're thinking. What are your plans? Where you're going? Get everybody I go back to the Marine Corps because it's just so easy to do this. we all had these different units. You might have worked in the supply pool. Maybe this guy worked in the motor pool. Maybe I worked in the comm center. The other guy's a frontline gunner. This guy's an mortar specialist, whatever. But we all knew what we were trying to accomplish. And we were all heading towards that same exact goal. Nobody was in silos.
Sure.
So because of that, we were like one hell of a force. And that's why, the Marines, the Army, Navy, Air Force, all of them, when you put all those different units together working towards the same end goal, you can accomplish amazing things. I mean, we talk about grow by 10x. You can go by 20x or 50x. Everybody on the same page.
Nice. And how about cash?
Well, growth sucks cash. So if you're growing, you're going to need cash to grow. And, I think Brad Smart of Top Grading suggests you should have like 6 months cash reserve in downturns. Is a really good idea. But what we do is we help people with their cash, how things are helping them disseminate down to their people, how each individual function or critical function of the company ties down to the P&L and the balance sheet. So if you're doing sales, obviously that's going to go to revenue. But if I'm doing production and I can increase my production by 20%, which gets 20% more widgets out, what that's going to do to the revenues, what's that going to do to my costs? And we help figure all that. I'm sorry?
I said, what happens downstream from the production?
Exactly. Yeah, the cause and effect. So we help them kind of dive into that, and even we have some software like Cash Flow Store where you can put in different scenarios. If I raise my rates by 2%, or let's say 2% or $2, whatever you want to call it, and I lose 3 clients, but I just gained $60,000 in revenues. Was it worth it? Well, we play with these scenarios and kind of figure out different ways to skin the cat, different ways to become more profitable and make more profits.
Yeah, I like it. What does a typical engagement look like with you, Steve?
So I have a couple. I do one-on-one CEO coaching. That typically will be twice a month. We'll meet for an hour to an hour and a half. And then I have what I call the full mid-market client, which basically is an executive team of 3+. And we'll meet with the CEO once a month. I meet with the executive team once a month, and I meet with them both every quarter to make sure that we're following up on the priorities and on our goals, and that we're achieving them. And everything I do, I try and break down from like the end goal back. What do I have to do to get to that end goal? So if I have a BHAG, Big Hairy Audacious goal of I want to make 25 million this year, what do I have to be doing? I'm sorry, in my 10-year goal rather. What do I have to do in 90 days? 3 to 5 years. Be doing in a year. Be doing in 90 days, and monthly in order to achieve that goal, and kind of break it down backwards. It seems to work and help out as well. And I'm starting a new workshop, so I'm gonna try and run some workshop mastermind classes.
Is this new mastermind you've got coming up, is this your first time kind of doing group coaching with people from different companies?
So no, in my accelerator program, it was 5 to 6 different companies, CEOs companies. So I've done that before, but it's my first mastermind group. Online.
What is that? What kind of plans do you have for that? You want to talk a little bit about the mastermind and what kind of plans?
Yeah. So, it's lonely at the top. And as CEOs, entrepreneurs, we're always like frustrated. We think we're imposters. We get all these crazy thoughts in our head. And a lot of times it's just good to be able to bounce stuff off other people that are of the like mindset with the same challenges. Again, it's like the 4 pillars. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Those 4 decisions are important for every single company. And so it's a support group to help each other. Again, I'll facilitate it. We'll use some of the tools that I use in scaling up to help them get clarity and get their thinking out on paper a little bit as well. But it's basically an hour accountability group. You'll get an accountability buddy. You can bounce things off. It's a no shame zone, total transparency zone. And what happens there stays there.
Nice. I love it. So for the I'm curious, the four pillars, is that part of the scaling up process, that methodology, or is the four pillars something that you came up with?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny, right? I was trying to figure out a name, and I'm like, well, I don't want to be Steve Ferman. That doesn't sound like a company. So, and all the other coach names you could think of were kind of taken. And there are four pillars of scaling up, and I am a scaling up certified coach. So I just did it mainly because it kind of made sense, and the .com was available, to be quite honest.
Nice.
And that the design, I actually had the design done by 99 Designs or Logos for You, one of those places. You know, we kind of came up with it.
The little logo that's right up there in your corner.
Yeah, the whole thing. It's not a sprint; it's a marathon.
I like it. Cool. What talk a little bit about some struggles that you have seen as a coach for these clients of yours and how you've overcome those.
Well, for the clients or for me,
Um,
I could go either way.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about your struggles for your clients. Some struggles that you've run into with your clients that you've helped them overcome.
You know, it's funny, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what somebody else doesn't know either.
Mm-hmm.
Really, honestly, and truly, and I don't know for humility reasons or not, don't go in assuming they know anything, but I also assume they know everything. So it's kind of a little catch 2022. But you know, I had one client. This is kind of funny, but I said, you know, Joan, her name's Joan. I've been working with you for 3.5, almost 4 months now, and you won't let me use any of my tools. I said, I don't feel like I'm providing you the value I should be providing you. Now, my brand promise is if I don't provide measurable value, you pay me for the value you receive, or don't pay me at all. That's my brand promise. It's like, you know, Disney is happiness, or Southwest Airlines is wheels up because they have lots of fares, lots of quick flights in the Midwest. And she said, you know, just talking to you with your years of experience and building, like I built an internet cafe in 99 that went down in 2000. $500,000 down the drain. So I've succeeded and I failed. I've been to both. She goes, just talking to you, getting your experience has been so much more valuable. I don't think we need any tools. I just enjoy my hour of picking your brain. And one good example is this one. She's not really good with agreements. Happens to be the same woman. And long story short, but it's a health clinic type of facility, and they need to have a certified practitioner do the payroll for whatever Jersey laws there are, or whatever. And hers was leaving, so she had to find somebody else. And this person sent over an agreement, and in the agreement, it didn't say anything about a Schedule A, but attached in the envelope was a Schedule A that basically said this person was going to get like 10% of her company, something, whatever. And because I've written and read a million contracts, I'm like, wait a minute, it doesn't state anywhere in the agreement about any schedules. That schedule is not part of this agreement. I would call them up and verify it, but I sure as heck wouldn't sign or initial that page. I'd only send back the agreement. You know, but it was little things like that. So that saved her 10% of her company. I think that's pretty huge.
Yeah.
I've helped other people increase their sales by 40%. Most of the time, I'm helping them get clarity and, you know, get that love back for their business that they had before they ended up doing everything and feel like they had to micromanage everybody. And just teach them how to delegate and let go. You know, that's really like such a riveting thing for somebody. You know, you're working 8 hours a week, you get 10 hours back. It's like, wow.
So you mentioned helping to get back clarity and love for the business, right? How do you measure that, or how does the client measure that, right? If the client is looking for measurable results or they get their money back, how do you take something unquantifiable and quantify it?
So typically by increase in production of some items, some KPIs, some metric that we determine. But you know, if the person, trying to think of the right way to put it, if the person is perceiving the value, I'll know during the calls because I'll know if I'm able to help them or not. But there's also NPS, Net Promoter Scores, that we send out at the end of our sessions, and I randomly send them out like every other session just to get feedback from
Uh-huh.
the people. And I want total honesty. I mean, again, my why is I love to help people, so I sure as hell don't want to just take someone's money and not help them.
Hmm.
It's not my intent. But everyone measures their success differently. So when we do an assessment, we find out what's good, what's not so good, or what's working, what's not really working in the organization. And the cool thing about scaling up is we can go right to where you're having the most pain. So if your pain might be in strategy and Susie's might be in people, or she's got to hire some people or whatever, we can actually go right to that pillar and work on that area and get you immediate results.
Hmm. Nice. You you mentioned earlier you were telling the story about your client who just loved picking your brain, and you hadn't used any tools with her. At that point, do you do you push, like, if you have a specific tool that you think would really help a client, are you gonna are you gonna push that tool and kind of drive something like that, or do you, I guess, you work it out maybe with the client themselves, or what does that relationship look like?
So I'm big on culture, and I think that depending on the relationship I have with the client, I may push more or less. But one of the things I do tell them, I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need.
Uh-huh.
And if I think they really need that tool, I'm going to tell them, look, whether you like it or not, you really need this tool.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not going to go, you have to fill out the tool, or I'm not talking to you anymore, because it's kind of like some CEOs want to, they're willing to be transparent with their numbers, all their numbers to their employees, and some aren't. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's no right or wrong answer there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think, yeah, it's got to be, every person's different. Every client's going to be a little bit different, and you got to do what's best for them. I mean, full stop. Right? Yeah.
it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's not about me at all.
Yeah.
And my job is, it's funny, going from the tech world where my job was to fix it. Oh, it's broke. Oh, I'll do this, fix it. As a coach, no. We don't tell you what to do at all. We basically ask, hopefully, the right questions for you to come to the right realization.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some tools and things that we could do to help guide that conversation, but our job is not to fix it. Our job is to help you be the fisherman, catch your own fish,
Yeah.
bring us out of a knot.
Yeah. I like that. You're the guide on the fishing trip, not the fisherman.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. Absolutely.
I like it. So we talked about some struggles that your clients have had where you've helped them overcome that. Let's circle back to that and talk about some struggles that you, Steve, have run into throughout your coaching career, and how you've kind of figured out how to navigate those bumps in the road.
So for anyone that's just starting this is for you. It's not a sprint. It is absolutely a marathon in every sense of the words. Even for someone like me who's been doing this, I've been in business for over 40 years. I was always basically the main rainmaker in all my companies, while I had salespeople. I don't know, just the owner. Easier to sell, I guess. But it's not necessarily an easy thing to do to become a coach. I think it's important to have some background and have some meat behind you, obviously, but people don't always want to admit they need help. People don't necessarily see the forest within the trees, so they don't really realize they need that help yet. So our jobs as coaches is, I spend a lot of time educating people.
Yeah.
And I think you need a lot of tenacity. And I'll be honest, it's been rough getting new clients.
Mm-hmm.
I have clients, but it's not like when I was selling IT services, I go out and pop clients left to right, and that's the way it was. And we just supported them. So I think just you got to be on social media, use video, you got to network, you got to put in the time. That's just the reality, and it only sucks for a while, as they tell me, and then the floodgates open.
Love it.
Yeah, but I only really started coaching like out to the world in November. So
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So okay, wow, that's amazing. Good for you. What books would you recommend? Pick 3 books that you would recommend for other coaches to read or clients for that matter.
Scaling up.
Oh.
Can't see because my background. So there it is. Scaling up 2.0. Who Not How by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. I thought was an amazing book. If you're gonna be a coach, I'd tell you to read Rich Litvin, The Prosperous Coach. It's also a good book.
Yep.
I have so many books, and I'm like constantly reading them too. What was the one I just read? Something about fish. Sounds crazy, but this is definitely worth the wait. It's about this lady who learns basically how to manage a floor of unruly, not very happy people by going to a fish market and realizing these people are working in this horrible, dirty, smelly environment, but having the best time. And they're throwing a fish, and one fish going to Wisconsin, and the guy throws the fish to somebody else, and the guy catches it. It's just called Fish, Fish.
Oh wow.
That's why I couldn't think of a different name because that's the name of it, Fish. It's a little book, but it's all about how she really learned some good lessons from these longshoremen
Yeah.
on culture and core values and building a team,
Hmm.
positive attitude. So really, really good book, very motivating. I highly recommend it.
And the author of Fish again?
And I was like, stop that. Why don't you give me information? Because it won't give me the info. That's why.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Yes, I did. I don't have the author in front of me, and it's too small to read.
Okay. Well, I'll
I literally just read it like a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and it was awesome. I mean, I can go into things like simple numbers. There's so many books,
yeah.
but those are really the top of my head. Who Not How. I think that's a really good book for people learning how to get the right people in the right seats on the bus doing the right things. And scaling up, obviously.
That's great. So, yeah, for those of you, of course, listening to the podcast or watching on YouTube, for that matter, we'll get links to these books in the show notes as well. So I'll figure out. I'll do some digging and see if I can find the author for Fish, so we can get that, because I imagine if we go to Amazon now and do a search for Fish, there's going to be about 3 billion things popping up.
Yeah, actually, I got it right now. I cheated. It is by Stephen C. Lundin, Lundin.
Perfect. Okay. Great. Fantastic.
Gotta love the internet.
Yes, we do. Awesome. Steve, is there anything else that you would like to chat about that we haven't had an opportunity to touch upon already?
No, I give a free 1 hour life-changing conversation for anybody that would like to have one with me. I'm available on LinkedIn, my website, the number 4pillarcoach.com. And also I have a free assessment that I offer. Oh, my marathon. It's not the marathon.
The Marathon Mastermind. Where is your website the best place for people to go to get information and sign up for those things?
Everything's there. My events are there. My blogs are there. A lot of good information and the marathon.
4pillarcoach.com with the number 4. Don't spell it out.
That is correct.
Awesome. This has been great. Steve Ferman, thank you so much for joining us on the Remarkable Coach podcast. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate you. Have a great day, man.
Cheers. Thank you. And thank you to our audience for joining us as well. We'll see you next time. Cheers. All right.
I think I could have done better.
That's fine. Where